Hello and welcome to this video. A lot of you have asked questions about who we are, so we thought to introduce ourselves. I come from Denmark, but I have been living in Germany since 2005. I am 46 years old and I have 3 teenage children who still reside in Denmark where they go to school. I'm an airline captain, and for the last almost 16 years I've been flying in Star Air based in Cologne, Germany. I fly Boeing 767 cargo aircraft. We have a fleet of Boeing 767s where some are better suited for short haul and some are better for long haul. The only difference is the length of the aircraft, which allows additional containers to be loaded. And for reference, a passenger aircraft of the same type and size would carry 300 passengers.
Here this morning in the 40 odd square meter apartment that Bo and I have lived in together for about the last 7 years or so before we bought the chateau. And as you can see, this is the full downstairs, so it's not very big. And then we have our spiral staircase, which goes up just to 1 bedroom and 1 small bathroom. This was my apartment before I met Bo, and we got married in 2019, and we're here ever since.
As you can see, we are getting loaded and ready to fly in the nighttime. This is typical for this type of operation. Loading of the ULD's containers is done by a company of airport employees. They are hired by UPS to do this job. They are responsible for the loading and have to follow the rules set out in our ground operations manual. There are a lot of rules and regulations in the airline industry, and we as pilots have to follow a lot of procedures as well. All in all, to enhance safety in and around the aircraft during operation. Before we can go, either my colleague or I myself will perform a walk around to ensure the aircraft does not have any exterior issues that we have to deal with first. We are always in close contact with our mechanics if this is the case. The walk around is performed before and after every flight. You might find a screw or a bolt that is loose in the engine, or maybe it is dripping with hydraulic fluid around the main gear or under the wings.
So before my role was chateau hostess, I was an advertising creative director here in Dusseldorf. And before the 7 years that I worked here in Dusseldorf, I also lived and worked in Dubai and served a lot of the Middle Eastern North African region, which is why I lived there for so many years. And then before that, I lived and worked in San Francisco at advertising agency there, and also in South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina, and out west in Blacksburg, Virginia. So my career has long since been advertising, and I particularly enjoyed being an expat living overseas and getting to experience new things and new cultures. And when I was living here in Germany, I was just thinking maybe I would make my next job in France, because I always wanted to live in France because I love the food and the culture and wanted to learn more about it. And then I met Bo, and we decided to get married, and so that sort of put a cap on those France dreams for a while. So then when we started to visit castles and look at castles, chateaus, and think about pursuing this dream, it was very exciting to me. But background as creative director, specifically I was a copywriter, and so when it comes to creating content for Queen's Escape and social media and the YouTube videos. I play a big hand in that, and absolutely enjoy that part of it. So before I was putting all of my energy into the chateau, I enjoyed painting, and Beau, he enjoys cars. So I started for gifts for him to paint his cars. So this is his little Porsche this old timer Porsche that he had here, and I gave that to him. And then he also is a pilot, as you may know, and this is his little plane that he has in Denmark. And this is also an old timer little plane, and that's Beau in there flying. And I painted that for him for one of these Christmases. And then last but not least, the last thing I did was I painted a Ferrari for Beau. And this is a picture, I think, from when we took a test drive in this Ferrari, one of his dream cars from when he was a young man. And you can tell we took it here in Germany because you can sort of see the house that is in the background there. But yeah, this is sort of one of my side interests. I'm not somebody who can sew or do upholstering yet, but I always enjoyed painting. And my latest work, I never did people before, but I have a very large canvas here behind the television, and these are two of Beau's children, his two boys, and they are standing here in this picture in front of his Porsche. So I'm going to take this large canvas back to France with me and try to finish that this year. So I have a project ahead of me.
Good evening from my office. This is a Boeing 767, and the cockpit looks like this. This is where I usually spend my time when I go to work. The cockpit has been updated and modernized over the years. Today we have big LDS screens and iPads, which we use for performance calculations, departure, en route and approach charts, and lots of documentation that is required for each flight. Sometimes we have to de-ice the aircraft before we go. It is different where this is done in the airports. Here you can see the de-icing truck approaching the left wing. And here our colleagues are getting their tail de-iced right next to us on the taxiway. This was a day where we only needed de-icing on the wings and tail. Here I was able to film the de-icing outside the aircraft because they did it on the parking stand. It is important to keep a good distance while they do this job because you do not want this fluid in your eyes.
So in addition to being an advertiser and now a chateau bed and breakfast owner, I'm also an advocate for polycystic ovarian syndrome, also known as PCOS or PCOS. And this is a condition that I've had my whole life. And it's a metabolic condition. But long story short, and it's hard to make the long story short. So the nature of the condition that I focus on is insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is when the cells of your body are resistant to insulin. So when you eat something, especially something carbohydrate, your body breaks it down into sugar, and the sugar goes into your bloodstream, and the pancreas releases insulin, and insulin takes all of the sugar to your cells and, basically knocks on the door and says, hey, we have some sugar here to help energy and power the body. And In most cases, the cell hears the insulin and lets the sugar into the cell to be used for energy. But when you're insulin resistant, your cells do not acknowledge the insulin so readily. So a lot of times the sugar from the foods that you have eaten do not get into the cells where they can be broken down and used as energy. Instead, they stay in the bloodstream. And your pancreas, realizing, okay, there's still an awful lot of sugar in the bloodstream, will release more insulin and more insulin. And so pretty soon you've got a ton of insulin and a ton of sugar in your bloodstream. And the body turns all of it to fat, which as women, we don't really appreciate. So what you have to do with this condition is you can't eat super high sugar food items that are going to break down really fast to sugar in your bloodstream and overwhelm your system. So you have to eat what's called low GI carbohydrates. And these are carbohydrates that have a lower breakdown level on the glycemic index. So instead of white flour, white rice, white pasta, sugar, you would swap these out for brown rice, shirataki noodles instead of pasta, erythritol or stevia instead of white sugar. There's a lot that goes into it, but part of my passion is to create recipes that are both delicious but also low GI. And I've created a brand and a website more as just a little passion project where I'm keeping these recipes, and I've worked with a trainer for the past year to create 12 months of workout programs to be able to provide to women who are suffering with PCOS so that they can try to manage their symptoms. Yeah.
Star Air is a company of Maersk. You might have heard about Maersk because they are the biggest container shipping company in the world with headquarters in Copenhagen, Denmark. Our main customer in Star Air is and has always been UPS. We fly the routes in Europe that the Americans themselves are not allowed to fly. We also help out DHL with some of their network. This year on June 5th, Star Air was renamed Maersk Air Cargo. Maersk has decided to invest to add further to their supply chain around the world with more aircrafts, warehouses, IT companies, and everything else that will support a better and faster transition of what you might order somewhere on the internet. Our new aircraft livery looks like this, and I got my new Maersk shoes delivered at the castle by UPS, which you can see here at the end.
One thing that was really exciting for me was that my mother and father came to visit me just a couple of weeks ago, and they stayed for about 2 weeks. And my father has newly been diagnosed with diabetes. And so the diet that he would, consume for diabetes is exactly the same as the diet that you should consume for PCOS or insulin resistance. In my case, you would also call what I have pre-diabetes or metabolic syndrome, and also, although there are slight differences. But so when he was visiting with me, I cooked every single meal for him, and I used all of the recipes that I have been, creating and making and have on my website, over the past many years. And his blood sugar dropped lower than he said it's been. And that was so rewarding for me, to see that, yes, in fact, cooking these low GI foods does, lower your blood sugar. So that was really cool to see. So this is my little website, and I showcase, a lot of my recipes right up front. And I do blog articles you know, just sort of to help women to understand, okay, how do you eat for this condition? How should you exercise for this condition? What foods are, you know, good, low GI, but also help with fat loss, and, you know, all kinds of information, tips and tricks about how to stay accountable. And I really do enjoy doing that. And then I have, you know, a free recipe library as well as a membership recipe library where I showcase recipes, and you know, for all of my recipes that are free or not free, it has, you know, step-by-step instructions for how to create them, and pictures, and the ability to change the amount of servings, you know, so that you can cook for yourself or a large group. And in a lot of cases, a cooking video that is from my YouTube channel for this. And I absolutely enjoyed making these videos. So before we were castle hunting, and, you know, during the years leading up to our move to France, you know, this is probably where I put my personal energies into creating these recipe videos. I absolutely love to do it, and I need to actually put a little bit more attention back to it. I've been absolutely castle focused in the last several months. But if you're interested in any of these, you know, if these kind of recipes, you can always go to my YouTube channel there, where I have all of the recipe videos that I made, plus links to the recipes on my website. So we're in Düsseldorf and we're walking out to dinner. And the nice thing about Düsseldorf is, you know, everything is close by, and our apartment is like a few blocks from the Rhine River and right in the center. So we only hear birds and church bells from inside the apartment, but if you want any life, you just open the front door and you can walk out, and anything that you want is there. So it's nice to come here sometimes. So tonight we're having dinner at one of my favorite restaurants in Düsseldorf, and that is called the Grand Etoile, and of course it's French. And it's beautifully designed, and the food is fantastic. So we enjoy to come here when we're here. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.